Welcome to Go to Market Japan YouTube channel. Today, I'll be interviewing George from New York Times. Let's go!
Hi, Kazu. Hello. Thank you for inviting me on your channel. I'm very excited and also nervous to be part of it. Looking forward to it.
Welcome, George. Yeah, thank you so much for showing up here today. I'm gonna ask you your personal and professional background. What do you do here in Japan? And some case studies or best practices. So first of all, for those who don't know us, we are actually friends. We met in Hong Kong, and then a couple years ago, we started hanging out back in Japan, all over like Tokyo and those places. He's obviously quite international, and then I would like to share his background, and then I think he can definitely share some insights that many business owners outside Japan can learn from. So first and foremost, George, could you please introduce your background?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Konnichiwa minasan. To all your Japanese audience, Noguchi to moshimasu. I'm George Noguchi. I'm the executive director and head of advertising for the New York Times. I'm based in Tokyo. I've been here since 2019, helping the New York Times expand their advertising region. My background is actually quite interesting. I'm from Hong Kong originally. I was born in Hong Kong. I went to international school there. I did most of my education, primary school life in Hong Kong, and then I went over to Australia for uni. I'm a Hafu, so my dad is Japanese, my mom's mixed Chinese, a bit of Pakistani and French mix. But yeah, I grew up most of my life in Hong Kong, and then I spent my later half in Japan since 2019 as shared. I met Kazu in Hong Kong partying actually. It's good how we met there. We started keeping our communications, keeping in touch of course, and then now on his YouTube channel. So for what I do at the New York Times, obviously as mentioned, mainly expanding the advertising region. When I first came in 2019, I was mainly just handling the advertising for the Japan region. So domestic Japan market, trying to help Japanese clients to advertise to America, reaching the US audience or global audience because the New York Times is a global brand. And then of course from there I was able to expand my role a bit, looking after the Northeast Asia region, and then now the complete Asia Pacific region as well. So it's been so far so good, a great company to be part of, and of course meeting with a lot of different type of clients, from government clients, from travel clients, from luxury clients, from retail, watches as well, all the way to property clients and so on. So it's a good diverse group of clients I'm able to engage with, and most importantly also educate myself and not stuck in one sector of knowledge, but able to expand my knowledge and promote Asia Pacific to the US and global audience through New York.
So you work across the industries, like regions, Asia, very different categories and clientele. You've been in Japan for 5 years. Have you been in this media industry a lot longer than that?
Advertising media industry, at least maybe 15 to 16 years now.
So you have worked in Japan, and where else?
I've mainly worked in Hong Kong and Japan. Those are
Hong Kong and Japan. Okay, so you can also explain some differences between Hong Kong and Japan.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
There's similarities, definitely a little bit more different in terms of working environment style with Japan.
Let's move on to the next question. It's about your company, like a little more in detail. How do you help your clients? Yeah, advertisement, that makes sense. But like, is that always on the New York Times, or do you guys create advertising strategies across the channels or media? What do you deliver?
It depends, because there's different categories of clients. There's some clients that are totally new to advertising, and then there are clients that, of course, existing clients, which we have a lot that we maintain year on year, and then of course providing them more confidence. That's why they come back and working with the New York Times as well. Of course, my job is mainly just pushing New York Times brand. In the market itself, it's a lot of competition as well. We are here, but the other major friendly competitors out here as well, like Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, CNN, and so on. So they are all out here. But mainly when we deal with a client, either we deal with face-to-face, direct dealing with the clients, or in Japan. I would use Japan as an example since I'm based here. Majority of the time, they use agencies. The agencies are really powerful, working the likes of Dentsu, Hakodo, ADK, Wonder Trunk, and so on. So mainly we'll work with the agency. Sometimes, obviously, I will go and present the idea of New York Times, our media brand, our portfolio of media, our audience as well, which is a core bit, and also our statistics as well, our reach, our digital reach, our print reach. And then from there, we'll showcase, provide confidence to the client. And from there, if they decide to work with us, if it's through an agency, they may give us a brief. And then from there, we'll work internally with our strategy team, our production team. And then from there, we'll brainstorm an idea and then provide a proposal based on their brief and also additional information through our strategy team to recommend certain products and how they run with.
That makes sense. You said in Japan, those agencies are super powerful. Can you elaborate more on that?
Powerful in a sense that it's great working with all of them. I have high respect for all of them. It's just they do carry a lot of brands, and I can see the powerness in terms of them controlling, outdoor advertising all the way to TV spots as well, and into, of course, they have a lot of power in terms of experience-wise, and then also they would be able to recommend a lot of major clients in terms of advertising strategy when it comes to working with global media.
Okay, let's say out of 10 clients, how many clients those agencies bring? And then the rest, how many do you work with the end clients directly?
Now, that's a very good question. To be honest, actually 50-50, 60-40, 60% in terms of working with direct clients, and then would probably use an agency. In the past, though, most of my conversation, we had to deal with agencies majority of the time and some clients, but it seems like a lot of these clients now also tend to, when they want to penetrate into the US or European market, they tend to just reach out to the global media brands directly. Some cases. For government clients, from my understanding, most of the time they may need to use an agency for tender notice. For these advertising campaigns, they will need to use an advertising agencies through tender as well.
Very interesting. Obviously, there's pros and cons of working without agencies. What are the pros and cons that you think when working with agencies?
Oh, I think the pros are that obviously it's a lot of a relationship building as well with the sales and the account executives or senior management at the agencies. Mainly, obviously, you have to really provide a lot of information, a lot of statistics to provide confidence for them to work with you. Because once they work with you and everything is a smooth selling, and then the client is also happy with the brand, you will see a lot of retention. You see a lot of clients coming back and working with us as well. And some agencies, they do know their brand very well, so that's good. And then it's a very smooth sailing from there when we cooperate and work together for numerous years together. Sometimes on the same client, sometimes on additional client that they bring in as well. I don't want to be mentioning too much negative stuff. There are cases that, when you go into a meeting at certain agencies, maybe they're a bit more junior or they're not too familiar with their brand, then that's when you sometimes come across some issues. Maybe they're not too familiar with the client, or they just don't want to share too much information. So it's a bit hard. Working for the New York Times, our approach is more westernized when we come into selling across the Asia Pacific region as well. That's our job to educate the American media brand, our global footprint as well. But so our tactics sometimes would be asking quite a lot of questions. But certain agencies might be a bit more reserved in terms of sharing too much. But anyhow, it happens across anywhere, Asia Pacific or globally, these minor cases.
I see. I think there might be very traditional local agencies who are not used to the way Western people discuss and share work, right? And then that's when you kind of have to localize yourself, or change your tone and all the styles, right? Okay. I was gonna ask you one more thing. So let's say listeners, viewers of this YouTube channel should be business owners outside Japan. Let's say you want to enter this market, and then you can find those agencies on Google. You can just Google it. But let's say you have never worked with them. How would you recommend their very first media strategy? In the US, let's say we have done these A to Z, but obviously it doesn't work, or some media, they don't even have the presence in Japan. How would you start a conversation with them?
So you mean companies that are trying to advertise America coming into Japan?
Exactly.
For me, it's the other way around because I'm working for clients going to America. And to America. So American brands trying to target into Japan. Yeah, there are cases. Obviously, I think a different team will handle that. Maybe our US team will obtain some of these ads. But sometimes I would recommend them. They work with New York Times, that's great. But in terms of other ways, if they really want to tap into local media, I think working with local media brands makes the major sense. Asahi Shimbun, Mainichi Shimbun, or Yomiuri Shimbun, those would be the first option for them. Or I was reading something that Yahoo is really big in Japan, Yahoo News. And surprisingly, Yahoo News, a lot of BDM, decision makers, the most senior Japanese local decision makers tend to use Yahoo. Some actually put Yahoo as their go-to read. So that is one way. Obviously, local media would be good. I mean, the next thing, we're talking about advertising here, right?
Media advertising strategy.
Maybe even Google Ads targeting Japan specifically might be a more effective way targeting locals.
I see. Here's another question I keep asking you. I think this is something a lot of people outside Japan can relate themselves to. So you are actually, let's say, little foreign, okay, half mixed, right? But then you grew up in Hong Kong and then you use English. Out of on a scale 1 to 10, let's say 10, your English comprehension level is 10. What's your Japanese comprehension level?
I think I would say 용. I'm still毎日 Nihongo 勉強.
So you actually studying Japanese, right? How do you get information here in Japan? Lots of listeners here should be curious about. They want to access information, but they can't read Japanese. You've been through that. How do you get information here?
Again, that's a very good question. For me, in my case, when I first got here, obviously I have to, a lot of stuff I'm looking, dentist that speaks English, always having the English. So it will lead you to certain areas. But again, it limits you in terms of having English doctors, assistant, all that, because there's only certain areas. Only in Minatoku area.
Like a prime location, yeah?
Would find these helps. That's really the main thing. And then some local websites that are most likely operated by foreigners that has been living here, or Japanese Americans, or Japanese that speak English. So mainly on those websites that cater to maybe foreigners that just got here. Sometimes I did look at certain, like Google, for example, and typing in top 10 that is important to me that I need to know. So things like that in the beginning. A little bit more different. As mentioned, I'm Hafu, so I had my Onisans and everyone here. But I had to independently do a lot of stuff. It's still difficult because a lot of information all in Nihongo, of course. I was lucky I brought up in Hong Kong where, it's English and Cantonese in terms of studying. So that was easier. But that's why, you move to Japan, I think it's important to at least speak Japanese and read a little bit. So that it's helpful. I'm doing that myself now, but in the beginning it wasn't that easy.
We know the answer for this already. You're not moving to Japan. So you're remotely starting your business here without the Japanese skills. That's almost impossible, right? I think lots of people already know, but again, I wanted to double kind of confirm with you that's not the case. Like you have to really work with some strong partners. If you can't relocate yourself, put everything here and you prioritize everything, right? This is not that easy. It's not Hong Kong and mainland China or like US and Canada. Completely isolated, like geographically speaking and the culture speaking, it's isolated. So very good.